if we don't do something to reverse this issue right now, we will see more environmental issues. The temperature of the planet will continue to rise faster than what we can handle. And it's not going to be good. It's going to hurt farming, and it could drastically change the numbers of the global population.
Hi guys, welcome to another installment. It's yours truly, CEO Wiz, Mr. Business, and yes, we have another exciting guest for you today. So carbon credits, carbon credit marketplace. What does this all mean? And what does it have to do with farmers? Well, you've got questions, we've got answers. Please help me welcome Erin Grover. Hi, Miss Grover. Welcome to the block.
Hi, thanks for having me. How are you?
We're great. Are you currently in Dubai?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm based in Dubai.
Okay, fantastic, right? So carbon credits, this other thing called carbon credit marketplace. Can you please tell us what is a carbon credit?
So a carbon credit measures a ton of carbon, and this is associated to either how much carbon is in the ground through a carbon protection credit, or it can be connected to the pulling of carbon from the air, like as a carbon sequestration credit. But it always equals 1 ton. One credit equals 1 ton in the marketplace.
Okay, and just to be clear, what is carbon for those of us who don't know?
Carbon, which people talk about all the time, is pretty much a chemical element. And the more carbon we have in the air, the more it throws the balance of our ecosystem off. Like, we're really supposed to keep the carbon in the ground. And I'm not a scientist, so I can't go up on the deep end, but the overall message is that, the earth has balanced out the carbon between the air and the soil naturally through its own systems. But now, because of industrialization and modern practices, automobiles, we're petroleum-based civilization, this has thrown the balance of carbon off. And if we don't do something to reverse this issue right now, we will see more environmental issues. The temperature of the planet will continue to rise faster than what we can handle. And it's not going to be good. It's going to hurt farming, and it could drastically change the numbers of the global population much faster than we would like to experience.
Okay. How so? How can this alter the global population?
Well, I mean, if we have if we continue to have the issues with climate change and the temperature rising, this can hurt farming and food supply, and it can also hurt the oceans. The off balance and all of this, down to the science, can actually, not just because of the warming of the waters, it's a number of things scientifically, but pretty much it can kill off the population of the fish in the ocean. It can destroy the oceans, absolutely. And then, how are we going to exist if we don't have a good food source that takes care of our planet? And too much carbon in the air can actually disturb the oxygen supply too. So and again, I'm not a scientist, so I really can't go down that rabbit hole, but it will throw off the whole balance, and it already is throwing off the balance of the planet. It's becoming more and more evident. So yeah, we're using the opportunity of blockchain to verify that carbon credits are real, to help reverse this issue. So when talking about smallholder farmers, they're using best practices that actually hold the carbon in the ground.
So yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, it sounds like this is potentially a serious issue if left unresolved moving forward. You kind of stumbled into my next question. What does all of this have to do with farmers?
Smallholder farmers do a good job at keeping carbon in the ground because of their natural and organic practices. And at the same time, you have other issues like that are socioeconomic, and pretty much farmers around the world are overly taxed right now. They are dealing with climate change. They are getting the short end of the stick when it comes to the marketplace because they have their produce at the back of the supply chain. And when it goes to the front end, to the marketplace in the cities, there are a lot of middlemen that take their cut along the way. Because of this, farmers aren't able to make ends meet. And the suicide rates for farmers are dramatically high compared to other populations around the world. And it doesn't matter what country. It's in America and it's in India as well for this issue. So when you can actually support a smallholder farmer and pay them for their carbon credits that they easily have because of best practices, you can then monetize them and support them in a way that they didn't have before. Now, blockchain is also interesting because it can cut the middlemen out of the produce supply chains. And we've already seen case studies of this around the world, including Haiti, for example, where there was a blockchain pilot for supply chain set up for avocado farmers. And for the first time in history, these avocado farmers in Haiti were able to directly sell their avocados to America and actually have a healthy profit in the back end. Their profits went up by 300% at least, and it cut out the middlemen of the Dominican Republic. So it cut out time and distance that added to the cost of the supply chain and took away from the farmer at the back end. So blockchain in this case is solving the issue in a number of ways, but I'm now primarily focused on carbon credits and bringing these smallholder farmers carbon credits to the global marketplace. And pretty much carbon credits have not typically been focused on smallholder farmers. There have been attempts in the past, but the problem has been in the traditional markets that you have companies show up to these farmers around the world and they say, oh, we're going to buy your carbon credits and then sell them, and then you'll get a cut sometime down the line, right? Maybe like 2-3 years. And that doesn't work. And then usually in the past, in these scenarios, the companies have disappeared and the farmers never got the benefit, or like indigenous tribes, for example. So there's one case study now for a company called Reseed in Brazil, where they actually acquired a smallholder farmer's carbon credits at $20,000 US. And that farmer already made $20,000 US from the produce. So to add an additional 20,000, double the income, the farmer was over the moon. And the farmer got paid right away. So with blockchain, you can also make sure that the farmers have actually been paid. So when you buy that credit, you can see it verified on the blockchain. So it's all around carbon, but the blockchain solving a number of issues here.
Okay, thank you.
And this is revolutionary. This is how you can build stronger middle classes in different countries. Like, it's very exciting.
So you mentioned about this one particular farmer, $20,000 US, somehow was able to double that. Can you kind of elaborate on how that's possible?
The company that executed this it was founded by carbon experts who have done this they've worked with farmers in the past to help them measure their soil, but they didn't do it with blockchain. So what they're doing now is they're using a convergence of traditional measurement practices for carbon in the soil, combined with satellite technology that can read the amount of carbon in the ground. And then it can be all locked into blockchain for accuracy of results and transparency. And the blockchain can also lock in the geotagging. So say you buy these credits from this company, you can go and see the location of where the farmer is on Google Maps. And that location is locked into blockchain. So it can't be tampered with.
Okay. So on the topic of blockchain specifically, can you explain to us the type of blockchain that you're actively interacting with? Is it levels? Is it layers? Layer 0, layer 1? Can you elaborate a little bit about which one in particular the use case are you referring to when you mention these use cases?
Most of the use cases I know about are on layer 1 applications.
Okay, layer 1 applications. And
Mhm.
so I also know that I recall that you mentioned a company called Reseed. Can you tell us a little bit about Reseed?
Oh, that's the company that I'm talking about.
Okay.
So yeah, so they've gone ahead and created their first case study of this smallholder farm in Brazil. They've already paid the farmer. And what's interesting about it is the founders are very well seasoned with carbon markets traditionally, and they were tired of the opaque variety of carbon credits where you don't know where they're from, you don't know if they're real. Some carbon credits are kind of dirty, like where people go into a coal mine and say, okay, this is a carbon credit here, or they're outdated. So yeah, they were fed up with the system and they developed this methodology to prove that the carbon assets were real in real time. We have verification organizations for the traditional markets, but there's no one verifying the verifiers. So we don't know if the verifiers are actually doing what they're saying. They don't have to prove themselves. And with blockchain, you can show what's actually going on. It would probably do well for the verifiers of the traditional carbon markets to actually integrate blockchain so they can prove they're doing things the right way. But these are the questions that the masses don't ask, but some of us do.
My next question is around a marketplace, right? So you were able to explain to us what carbon is, what carbon credits are. And so I think now, for me to kind of really get the picture, it would be nice if you could explain what is a carbon credit marketplace and how does it work?
The voluntary carbon marketplace, which is what you'll hear about the most, happens through a number of ways. One, it's like when you buy a plane ticket and you want to offset your trip and the carbon footprint. So you can click a little button and then buy carbon credits to offset it. Otherwise, there are just places where people can go and buy a bunch of carbon credits. If they're a corporation that wants to balance out their carbon footprint. Another way is, there are carbon funds right now where people have portfolios of different types of carbon credits, and these are just impact investors. They might not have a big dirty corporation that's polluting the world. They just want to help to reverse climate change because they have the resources to do so. So there are carbon funds. This is very interesting right now because the value of carbon is going up every year steadily. There's no volatility now, and it's been rising over the past 3 years at 60% a year, and they think that number
Why
will go
is
up
that? Why is that?
because of government regulation enforcing companies to start balancing out their carbon footprint.
Okay.
That's the main reason. I also think it's a lot of fear purchasing too, because more and more people are aware to what's happening right now. The more we have these strange weather patterns. So yeah, I think there's definitely some fear purchasing as well.
Okay. So again, just to make things a little bit more clear, if I'm a corporation, why would I want to buy carbon credits in a carbon credit marketplace? And also, why would a corporation want to sell their carbon credit in a carbon credit marketplace?
Typically, it's one of two types. I'm a corporation and I'm forced to buy carbon credits because of regulation. Or two, I have a company and I know it makes a huge mess through one way or another. It's a massive polluter. Say I have an oil company, which I don't, by the way, but and you can, as a company, you can also consciously choose to do that. And a lot of times it's pure intentions, and sometimes it's PR and whatever the reason, you're either enforced to now because of regulation, or you choose to. So those are the biggest types of buyers, and the sellers are, people who want to make money off of it. And ideally we'd have like conscious sellers, but typically over history, since these carbon markets were created, the people selling the carbon have been wealthy landowners, and it has not been accessible to smallholder farmers and anybody who has under a certain amount of land. Some of the biggest verifiers in the industry have made it so the smaller landholders cannot even sell their credits because they don't have enough land. They have like a minimum requirement of land that you need to have if you want to sell. Where now with this whole concept, with blockchain, the company that I mentioned, Reseed, they're democratizing access to the carbon markets as the seller. And these farmers have applications on their phone where they can get on and start the process to document their carbon and sell it to the global marketplace without having to buy a bunch of land or having to spend a bunch of money. The system's enabling them to start up right away.
Okay. So let's switch gears for a little bit. So tell us about yourself. How did you end up in this space? I'd love to hear more about you.
Thank you. Long story short, I've thought about this recently because it's like funny to me in a way. Like, my family's from New York. We're city people. I'm a diehard like computer nerd, and really don't want to live in a village or on a farm. But when I was 21, I ended up living in a village on a farm for a year in Nepal. To the extent where I learned the local language because they don't speak English there, and I had to. So I learned a lot about farmers, and I became friends with farmers and witnessed the issues that they go through, and the beauty of the situation too, living off the land and all of this. And my goal was always to somehow use my white Western privilege to somehow channel funds back to them. I'm fulfilling that intention and that cycle. So now, because of the resources I have with investors, with the blockchain industry, I'm able to start to, bring resources back to farmers in these types of communities in Asia and Africa and the global South. So, sitting here in Dubai, yes, I'm in a city, but this project Reseed, for example, is working with these types of communities, and I will do everything I can to support them to expand to other smallholder farmer communities around the world.
Tell us exactly what is Reseed and what problem are they solving?
It's a blockchain marketplace that's in pre-launch right now for the public. The token will be available in Q1 of next year publicly. But yeah, it's creating the marketplace so smallholder farmers can establish their assets, establish their carbon credits to the marketplace beyond their immediate reach to the global marketplace. And it's bringing verification to the carbon credits to make sure that they are real, which is the biggest challenge in the carbon markets.
Right. So, okay, just to reiterate a little bit. So Reseed is a carbon credit marketplace itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
One of its objectives is to democratize farming for the smaller farmer. Is that also accurate?
It's to democratize smallholder farmer access to the carbon markets. These are the people who are holding most of the carbon in the ground. These are the gatekeepers to the carbon. If you don't have these smallholder farmers, of which there are about 1 billion in the world, there will be way more carbon in the air. So we have to support these people. It's necessary for the survival of the human race at this point. It's that serious.
You just explained to us that it is a blockchain-based marketplace for the exchange of carbon, right?
Mhm.
Credits. Tell us a little bit about the founders.
The second founder was a former advisor to President Obama for science and technology, and actually wrote or co-authored a presidential report on the issue with the traditional markets of carbon.
So with Reseed, tell us what can we look forward to seeing from you guys moving forward in the next 6 months to 1 year?
We're in pre-sales for the token, and the token will go public within Q1. There will be a lot of expansion through press and outreach, digital marketing strategy. So the company definitely will be expanding to many countries around the world.
Okay, so thanks for coming on. It was fantastic to be able to speak with you. We learned a lot. Is there anything else you'd like us to know moving forward?
That's pretty much it. I pretty much covered it. So thank you for having me on. And I'm really happy to talk to anybody who's interested to learn more about this and how it could be implemented even here in the MENA region.
She started out in crypto assets and crypto funds, and now is passionate about helping farmers to monetize their carbon credits on the global carbon credit marketplace. Thank you so much, Erin Grover, Reseed, signing off.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
And what does it have to do with farmers? To monetize their carbon credits on the global 6 years experience in blockchain industry. She started out in crypto funding and crypto. She started out in asset. That's Erin Grover, a blockchain expert.
But